This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be making a buttercream rose bouquet cake. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to start off by making colors today, and we're going to make two. I'm using American style buttercream. You can use whatever kind you like. Just need something that's good for piping and especially for making flowers. We're going to make two colors. I'm going to start with my green, and we're going to use the following liquid gel shades for all of our colors: royal blue, lemon yellow, red red, and finally some neon bright pink. To start with, we're making green, so I'm going to start with my blue and my yellow. So I'm just going to give myself a couple of drops because I've got quite a bit of buttercream in there. I'm going to use it to cover my cake and do some details. And I just want to do like kind of equal amounts on the blue and yellow. And that should give me a nice green. And here you can see we got our fully mixed color. It's nice, it's well blended. I didn't even add any extra. I like the shade that we got and I like the intensity. If you want darker, you can always add some more color in the same ratio. Next up, we're gonna make some pink. That's the color we're gonna make our roses. You can make whatever color you like if you're trying this at home. I'm gonna start with my neon bright pink and just give myself a couple of drops because I've got quite a bit of buttercream in there. And then I'm going to add a drop of red red. So think kind of like a 2-to-1 ratio. I want more pink than red, but I want kind of a nice lipstick-like pink or like magenta shade. And here we have our color. And I added an extra round just to get the intensity up a bit, but it's going to keep developing, especially those reds and pinks. So I want to give it just some space to kind of grow for me as it sits in my cup before we start piping and hit that kind of final shade that's going to be a little darker. And you can always go back and adjust your colors later, but remember to give them some time to develop. We're using 3 12-inch disposable bags for this project, and you can see I'm only using one of them with a coupler. We've split our pink into 2 bags. The first I'm using with a number 125, so this is a large, oversized petal tip. The second bag of pink has a coupler, and we'll be using numbers 12 and 104. Our third bag has our green in it, and we're going to be using a number 352. We're going to review the techniques for our rose bouquet really quickly, and the first one is our mound. We're going to use our number 12 tip for this, and you want to think about squeezing a nice big full dot so you have a great base on your rose. And when you hit that dot, instead of stopping and circling around like you would normally, you're going to pull up slowly to make a nice peak. We're also going to be using our number 104 for our roses. And for the center petal on these, we're going to use that 104 and we're going to line it up so it's in line, the opening of the tip, with the slope of our mound, and that skinny point is pointing right across it. And we're going to set ourselves up for success with the back end of the bag towards our shoulder and the bag itself at 45 degrees. That way, when we hold and spin, it'll wrap a petal around that mound and create a center. We can then swipe down. The second type of petal we're going to make with our 104 for our roses is a nice little soft arc. And we're going to follow the same motion. So a nice, think soft arc shake, think tiny little rainbows, whatever makes it work for you in your head. And we're going to hold the bag itself at different angles and different positions on that mound to create our blossoming rose. For leaves, we'll be using a number 352. We'll be piping a lot directly on our cake, so the direction the back of the bag is going to be going in, facing in, is going to change a little bit. But you want to think about it, about having the back of the bag in line with the leaf that you're going to pipe. So you're pulling in the direction that you want to shape your leaf in. We're going to touch with one of our points. In this case, the surface is our tray. Later, it's going to be on our cake. And the other one is going to be sticking straight out. This is going to allow the frosting to come out to both sides of that little V shape. And you just want to squeeze and hold till you get the right size. Think however fat you want it. And then pull away. And if you pull nice and slow, you should get some little ridges. Our next two techniques are going to be with our 125, and these combined together are going to give us some rosebuds. We're using our 125 because I want them to be a little bigger and more in line with the size of roses that we're piping. The first is a fan, and I'm going to pipe that fan so that there's a little ridge on the back. So if you think you have yourself at a normal bag angle, we're going to be working on our nail. The back end is going to be kind of towards 130, and we're going to pipe and just spin and rotate a little bit. At the end, rock that bag up to pull up, and that'll give you that little lip there. Next, we're going to do what I call the S petal for your rosebuds. And the important part here is it has to be done right on top of the end of the fan petal. So that little lip that we piped on the back was really important. When you line your bag up, think about lining the opening up with that lip, holding the bag to the side almost in a flat position. This way, when we squeeze, it's going to attach, and you can see it rolls over, and then we pull down. And that makes what I call our S petal. It doesn't look much like an S here, but if you turn around and look at it from the back, you'll notice it curves almost like an S for you. Our last technique is the texture we're going to use on the side of our cake, and we're just going to use our nice little offset spatula to achieve that. And you can see I've got a little bit of my green buttercream loaded up, and we're just going to do a nice vertical texture. So I've got to hold my paper so it doesn't get away from me, but if we go up and down, kind of in line together. They don't have to be perfectly straight. You can see that gives us a bunch of vertical lines, and that's going to give us the idea of stems in a bouquet. We're going to go ahead and pipe ourselves some roses. I'm starting with my number 12 tip. I've got my 2-inch flower nail, and I've got a little paper on top of it. I'm just going to line myself up in the center, leave space between the opening of the tip and the nail, squeeze that nice big dot, and then pull up gradually. And that should give me a nice peak, you can say, with a nice subtle slope to it. Next up is our center petal. We're going to set ourselves up 430, 45 degrees. I'm going to line that opening up in line with my little mound. The top point of the opening just peeking over the top. This way, when I squeeze and rotate, I can come all the way around and lay on that nice closed center petal. It's time for our first row. So we're going to use our soft arcs. Opening of the tip is pointing straight up and down. We're going to squeeze as we rotate. Just remember to keep rotating as you finish your petals. Our second row, we're going to change just a little bit by rotating the tip point out. So it's just going to face out a tiny touch. If you're thinking about a clock face, like 1 o'clock, we're going to move down our mound of frosting a little bit. And since we've got more space, we can put on more petals. For our final row, we're going to rotate out even more. This allows us to get that fat end right there next to our cone of frosting, that mound that we made, and allows us to go right at the bottom, right next to our flower nail. So we have even more area to go around, which means we can do even more petals. And typically I get 3, 5, and 7, but the exact number doesn't matter as long as you're making it all the way around and you end up with a pretty rose. I'm going to go ahead and prepare 10 to 12 of these, get them on a tray, and put them in the refrigerator so they're chilled and firm and ready to use on our cake. We're also going to pipe some rosebuds ahead of time. So I've got my bag of 125 with the pink, and I'm going to have that back of the bag kind of pointing up towards almost 130 on my clock position. And I'm just going to squeeze and spin and then pull up at the end. And you can see that gives me that nice little ridge to attach to. For our second petal, I'm going to line the opening of my tip up with the ridge that I created on the end of the first one. And I've got the bag just pointing out right towards 3 o'clock, so you can see the opening is in line with that ridge. And so as I squeeze, it's going to attach and allow it to roll over. And then to finish, I'm going to pull down. And you can see from the back end, it allows our petals to nest together and gives us that beautiful little twisting feel of the center of a nice little rosebud. I'm going to go ahead and prepare about 6 of these, about half a dozen, put them on the tray and get them chilled so that they're ready to use on our cake. But I'm also going to keep my bag with my extra pink in it on my 125. That way, if I need to, I can pipe some directly on my cake as well. We're currently getting our cake ready to work on. And one of the things we've done ahead of time is we made up some cake mash. So just think we crumbled up some extra cupcakes, mixed in some buttercream. If you want our ratio for this to make a nice moldable cake mash, you can check out our video on cake pops where we cover that ratio pretty thoroughly. I just lined a nice little bowl, it's one of my mixing cups, with some saran wrap and pushed that down in there. And that then makes it easy to release and to get out of there, and it's chilled, so it's nice and firm, which means we can use this and pop it right on top of our cake. We're gonna start working on our cake now, and the first thing we're gonna do is put that cake mash we prepared on top. So I'm gonna give myself a nice dollop of buttercream on there, nice and thick, because I want it to stick on. And you'll notice for the bowl we chose to use, we used something that was smaller than the diameter of our cake by just a little bit. So this one is a 5-inch cake that we've iced. It's got a nice layer of firm white buttercream on it, and the bowl we chose was just a little smaller. If you don't have something that'll work for the size of cake that you're doing, just go ahead and shape it with your hands, and you can do it directly on the cake if you want to. It's just a little messier. So I prefer to do this where I just press it into a bowl because it gives me that nice dome, and it's chilled and firm, so I've got something nice and solid to work on. The next step for getting our cake ready to put our flowers on is to do the textured green buttercream on the side. So I'm just going to load up my spatula with a little buttercream, and I'm just going to start working. Pick a spot, anywhere really works, and just long strokes up and then down. And we just want to make sure we have nice coverage. So if you have a spot that's thin, just go right back over it. But we want to give ourselves that vertical long look. And the closer together you do them, the more it's going to look like little stems, or just kind of give us the idea of stems because we have these nice long strokes. I'm going to keep working all the way around my cake till I get back to the beginning. I like to just give things a once over when I'm doing this, just to make sure I don't have any thin spots or bald spots, and you can go right on top of your work. I finished going around my cake, and now I'm just going to give it a once over. So I've just got a little buttercream on my spatula, and any place I feel like it needs a little correction, like I've got a little white showing through up here, I'm just going to go over and just fill in any little gaps. If I can see any ghosting of that white through there and the color looks a little thin, just go right on top of it. It should be easy enough because we're doing something very loose and free, just to work right on top of what you've already done. And you can also look for any spots where maybe you have a really thick buildup or something that doesn't quite look right, and just give it a little quick adjustment. Next step is to start putting our flowers on. And you can see over in the background, I've got a little tray. I pulled out about half of my blossoms, and I'm going to start working around, and I'm going to work from the bottom up to the top and fill in. I've got my bag of green with my 352, and I've got my extra green ready to load into it because we're going to use a lot of this now. And you'll notice I didn't even bother to crumb coat the top where I have my cake mash. It's mashed up cake with buttercream already in it, so it's already sticking all those crumbs together, which means I can pipe directly on it. Now, if you want to and give yourself a little more coverage, you can give it a light covering with the green to help eliminate any show through, but we're gonna put a lot of flowers on this, so I'm not even too worried about it. I wanna start piping some leaves and just make sure I've got some space down in there for my first blossom, and I'm covering up any white. When you're ready to put a blossom on, you can see I've got a little green there in the middle, nice little messy looking leaf to stick it onto, and just peel it right off the paper and place it right on there. And then I'm just gonna go around, put more green around it, and then put another blossom on. And what I can do to help myself with spacing is I've got one over there, and I'm gonna come directly opposite and do the next one. And this is gonna help me by giving me kind of relatively equal spacing for those big blossoms. So come in here, get the next one on, and this is going to start to make our bottom row of roses. Now you can see I've got space around this edge, and I want to try and get in probably like 2 more. And anywhere you can see cake in the back, or you think things need to be attached better, just go ahead and do that. But what's going to happen here is I'll probably get about 6 of these around the bottom edge. And if I've got some extra space, I can always put in a little rosebud or 2. And just hold them on there for a second, just to make sure that they're adhering. But you should have a nice little lip there. And that should really help things. So I'm just going to go in heavy with that green, kind of pulling leaves in all directions. And I've got a little space over here. I'm going to put in a bud. And don't be afraid to pull them out towards yourself as well. Same idea with the buds. I can just pull those off my paper, and since they're nice and big, just place them on pointing straight up. Once you go all the way around the bottom and you've got a nice pattern you can repeat, take your green and fill in behind. So we want to just come right here at the top, right behind your decorations, squeeze in any gaps, and this is going to help secure things, but also it's going to help cover up the beautiful mound that we made. So I'm just going to go in and secure these, and then I'm going to go ahead and repeat what I did on this blank side of my cake. We finished our bottom row. So you can see we've got a nice little pattern going for our roses and our rosebuds. Now we're going to move up the side of our mound and work on another row. And we'll probably end up with one spot in the middle for a final flower. So we just want to kind of go around and start putting on buds and roses anywhere we've got a good space. And we want to do the same kind of full coverage with our green leaves as we go. So just pick a blossom and get it on right there. And if you need to, go ahead and do some leaves at the bottom of it as well. 1, to help secure things, and 2, just to give it that look like we've got leaves all around it. So we're just going to keep making ourselves spots, and you can see I'm going kind of offset from the roses that I did on the first row. And if you've got any low spots in your mounds, just go ahead and kind of fill that in a little bit, just with a little buttercream. And if you need to while you're working, just hold it on for a second, just to make sure it's nice and secure before you let go. And I'm just going to have these leaves coming off in all directions. And you can see it really starts to fill it in right away. I'm going to keep going, and I'll probably go kind of every other. So think for the second row, I'm going to go a full rose and then a rosebud. And as you're going around, this is also a good time to kind of check things and make sure you don't have any bald spots that are showing through. There we go. And it'll make quick work of finishing this, because as we go up, we end up with less and less area to work on. We finished our first 2 rows, and I'm just coming in here and prepping this last little spot. I'm going to do some big leaves, just kind of pointing out, just to get this last little area ready. And if you've got a bigger area, you can always put more flowers in it. But I've just got one beautiful rose. I saved one of my ones that was just a little bit smaller for that top spot. So perfect, gorgeous little rose to go down in there. And then anywhere I have a gap, I'm just going to go in with my bag of green and fill in. This will cover up any last little bits that are showing through and help secure that last blossom. So you can see we've put our last rose up there on the top, and I'm just going to give things a once over. I want to look at it from all angles. Anywhere I think anything needs a little help or a little more security, if I've got anywhere where I see a little bit of that mound showing through, or where anything looks a little too flat against the mound, you'll notice I'll pull those leaves kind of coming out. And this is going to give it a little more depth and dimension and make things look a little freer and give us kind of a nice wild vibe of all those leaves being bunched together. So you can see I have an area where it's kind of all really flat. So I'm just going to pull some kind of out at all angles, give it a few little spikes, make sure things flop over just a little bit for me, and just give it a little scan to make sure I can't see my mound in any places. And there we have our finished rose bouquet design. We ended up using 12 of our piped roses and 6 of our rosebuds. And you could easily do this with a denser amount of roses and just make more and use less green. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly supports our channel and helps us share more in-depth cake decorating lessons. Want to level up your skills? Our yearly membership has certificate programs from beginner and up. Learn more at cakedecoratingschool.com.